Eldenwick was a small village tucked in a valley, where fog hugged the streets like a soft blanket. Little houses with ivy on their walls glowed under lanterns, and the air smelled of warm bread and wildflowers. At the edge of the village was a shop with an old sign, Talus the Tailor. Inside, colorful fabrics lined the walls, silks that sparkled like stars, velvets dark as night. A big wooden loom sat in the center, and behind it was Talus, 73 years old, with silver hair and hands that moved like they were dancing. His face had deep lines, like a book full of stories, but his voice was the real magic. It was warm and smooth, pulling you into tales of faraway places. Clara was 24, a weaver's daughter with gray eyes that held a storm. She grew up helping her dad make cloth, but she dreamed of bigger things, cities with tall buildings and paintings bursting with color. Eldenwick felt too small, like a shoe that didn't fit. When her dad died, she was left alone, her mom gone years before. The loom she got from him felt heavy, like it was holding her back. During the day, Clara made plain cloth for the villagers, her hands moving without thought. At night, she drew pictures of places she wanted to see. Busy markets, bright skies. Those drawings were her escape, but she felt lonely, like nobody saw her. One chilly fall evening, Clara walked by Talus's shop and saw a piece of blue silk in the window. It shimmered like a dream, and she couldn't resist going inside. The bell above the door jingled, and Talus looked up from his loom. "Looking for something special?" he asked, his voice wrapping around her like a hug. Clara shook her head, but her eyes showed how much she wanted more than this village. Talus smiled and offered her tea that smelled like herbs and secrets. Then he told her a story about a princess who wove a magic cloak that gave her anything she wanted, but it took something from her too. The shop felt alive, the fabrics glowing, and Clara listened to her heart racing. She started visiting every night, bringing her plain clothes to trade for his stories. Talus told her about deserts where the sand sparkled and forests where trees whispered. His words painted the world she dreamed of, and she felt like he understood her. He saw how her hands shook when she talked about painting, her drawings hidden in her bag. "You're meant for big things," he said, looking right at her. Clara felt warm, like someone finally saw her. She didn't notice that his stories always talked about promises, how the princess had to give something back for her wishes. They grew close, fast. Talus gave her a shawl he made, its threads shining like moonlight. "For my special friend," he said, and Clara's cheeks turned pink. They walked through meadows, talking late into the night, his stories mixing with her hopes. The village started to talk. She's too young for him, he's too old. But Clara didn't listen. Talus was 73, but he was full of life, his mind quick, his stories like a door to her dreams. When he asked her to marry him, holding a ring carved from wood, she said yes, thinking love could make their differences beautiful. Their wedding was small, in a field full of wildflowers. Clara wore a dress Talus made, its fabric catching the sun like magic. The villagers came, but their smiles were stiff, their whispers sharp. "She wants his money." "He's taking her youth?" Clara held Talus's hand, his warmth making her feel safe. That night, they went to the loft above the shop and made love, the loom quiet below. It was gentle, Talus careful because of his age, Clara nervous but wanting to feel close. It felt like trust, not passion, and she thought that was enough. Their life together found a pattern. Clara moved into the shop, her loom next to Talus's. They worked side by side, her plain cloth now decorated with his fancy designs. Mornings started with tea and stories, Talus talking while they ate oatmeal. Afternoons were for sewing, Clara learning his tricks. His kind words made her smile. Evenings were calm, Clara drawing while Talus read old books. Their age difference showed in small ways. Talus took naps, his knees creaky, while Clara wanted to explore, drawing places he couldn't walk to. She didn't mind, thinking they fit together like puzzle pieces. But there were problems. Talus's stories started to sound different, like warnings. Dreams can trick you, he'd say, watching her draw. They pull you away from what's important. Clara laughed, thinking he was joking, but his face was serious. He told her to make her clothes like his, saying hers was too messy. This is better, he'd say, holding up his neat designs. Clara wanted to make him happy, so she did what he said. The people of the community kept talking, calling her a gold digger, even though Talus wasn't rich. Their words hurt, making her feel small, her drawings getting simpler, her dreams fading. Talus's stories filled the quiet, always about staying loyal, about not chasing dreams. Clara didn't see that his words were like a net, pulling tighter around her. Their marriage, which felt like a fairy tale, was turning into something else. A deal she didn't fully understand, and it was starting to cost her. A year passed, and the shop felt smaller, like the walls were squeezing Clara. Her loom sat unused, covered in dust, because Talus wanted her to make his designs, neat, plain, nothing like the bright, wild patterns she loved. He worked at his loom, his hands quick, while she copied him, her fingers bored. "This is real art," he'd say, showing her a tapestry of soft blues. Clara nodded, but inside, she missed color, missed making things her way. Their days were the same every day. Tea in the morning, weaving until lunch, bread and cheese, more weaving, then dinner. Talus napped a lot, his stories now sounding like rules, telling her to stay small, to not want too much. Their closeness faded. They rarely made love, Talus's age making it hard. When they did, in the loft where the air smelled like wool, it felt like a task, not love. Clara was there, but her mind was somewhere else, thinking of the dreams she'd hidden. Talus could tell, and his hands held her tighter, his eyes searching hers. "You belong to me," he'd whisper, and Clara forced a smile, feeling uneasy. She wanted to feel loved, but his need to keep her close felt heavy, like a chain. The people's words began to get meaner. When Clara went to buy apples at the market, a woman whispered, "She's throwing her life away." Men stared, thinking she married Talus for money. Clara wanted to yell that she fell for his stories, not his shop, but she started to wonder if she'd been fooled. Had she believed in a dream that wasn't real? Talus brushed off the gossip, but it felt like he was keeping her in place. "They don't get us," he'd say, pulling her near. "Stay here with me." Clara listened, and her world shrank to the shop. Talus started controlling her more, but it was sneaky. He'd move her drawings, hiding the ones with bright colors. "These won't sell," he'd say, his voice nice but firm. When Clara talked about selling her own patterns, he shook his head. "The village likes my way, not yours." She tried to argue once, her voice loud, but Talus got quiet, his eyes hard. Clara stopped talking, feeling smaller. She stopped walking around the village, her drawings now just plain lines, her dreams locked in a box. One spring day, a woman came to the shop, a painter named Lyra, with blue streaks in her hair and a big smile. Lyra saw Clara's old drawings on the wall and gasped. "These are amazing," she said, her eyes kind. "You should sell them." Clara looked at Talus, who was watching from his loom. "They're just for fun," she said softly. Lyra frowned but gave Clara her card, whispering, "Don't let your spark go out." That night, Talus burned the card, saying it was junk. Clara felt her heart drop, but she didn't say anything, her voice gone. Things got worse at a village festival. Clara made a dress for herself, with bright reds and yellows, different from Talus's dull colors. People stared. Some liked it, others didn't. Talus's smile was stiff. "It's too much," he said, holding her hand too tight. At the festival, Clara danced, laughing for the first time in months. Talus stood still, his face like stone. When a young man said her dress was nice, Talus pulled her away. "You're making me look bad," he whispered. Clara's happiness disappeared, her dress feeling wrong. That night, they argued. Clara's voice shook. "I'm not your worker, Talus. I'm your wife." His eyes were cold. "You're mine to teach. Without me, you're just a girl with silly dreams." His words hurt, sounding like the village's gossip. Clara ran to the loft, crying. She saw the truth. She'd given up her dreams for his stories, her freedom for his love. The fairy tale was a trap, built by a man who wanted to control her. Clara started hearing Talus's stories differently. They were like the fairy tale about Rumpelstiltskin, where someone makes a deal but pays a big price. Talus's stories had pulled her in, but they were tying her down, taking her dreams. She thought of Lyra's words, her drawings, the dress she wore. A tiny hope grew, but fear stopped her. What if Talus was right? What if she couldn't do anything without him? When winter came, snow covered Eldenwick, making everything quiet. One day, Clara found an old drawing hidden behind Talus's loom, a picture of a colorful city, full of life. It was hers, but she barely recognized the girl who made it. Her heart hurt, her dreams feeling far away. That night, Talus told a story about a weaver who didn't listen to her teacher and lost everything. Clara couldn't take it anymore. "Stop," she said, her voice strong. "Your stories aren't helping. They're holding me back." Talus's face turned hard. "You're ungrateful. I gave you a home, a life." Clara laughed, but it was sad. "You gave me a cage." Their argument grew loud, Talus's voice sharp, his hands shaking. "Go then. See if your dreams get you anywhere." Clara felt his words like a punch, but something inside her woke up. She remembered her dad telling her to make her own way, to be brave. She saw Talus for what he was, not a kind storyteller, but a man who used words to keep her small. His love a deal she never wanted. Clara decided to leave. She packed a bag with her drawings, her loom, and the shawl Talus gave her. As she walked to the door, Talus grabbed her arm. "You'll be sorry," he said, his eyes wild. Clara pulled away, her heart racing. "I'm sorry I stayed," she said, and stepped into the snow. The village was silent, the cold air sharp. Behind her, the shop's lantern flickered, like a fairy tale ending. Not happy, but true. Clara went to stay with a kind older woman in the village who gave her a small room. She started weaving again, making bright, bold patterns that felt like her. She set up a stall at the market, and people began to buy her work, some even saying they were sorry for judging her. The woman who helped her, named Mara, became a friend, sharing tea and stories that lifted Clara up, not holding her down. Clara felt her strength coming back, like a plant growing after a long winter. One day, Lyra, the painter, came back to Eldenwick. She saw Clara's stall and smiled wide. "You're shining now," she said. She offered to show Clara's drawings to a gallery in a big town nearby. Clara was scared, remembering Talus's words, but she said yes. Her drawings turned into paintings, and her clothes into art that people loved. She started to believe in herself again. Her dreams were no longer just pictures in her head. Talus stayed in his shop, alone. Villagers said he barely wove anymore, his hands slow, his stories gone. Clara felt a little sad for him, but she didn't go back. She'd learned what his love really was, a way to control her, not lift her up. Her marriage had been a hard lesson, but it showed her what she didn't want and what she could be. Clara's new life was simple, but it was hers. She lived with Mara in a cozy house with a warm fire. Every morning she painted, filling canvases with cities, rivers, and skies full of color. In the afternoons, she wove, her patterns bold and free, sold at the market where people now smiled at her. At night, she sat with Mara and other friends, laughing and talking her heart light. The village's harsh words faded, and some people even said they admired her for being brave. Clara forgave them, but she remembered how their words had hurt, keeping her strong. She met someone new, a potter named Elias, who was her age. He had gentle hands and a quiet laugh, and he liked her for who she was. They grew close, spending evenings in his workshop, the air smelling of clay. When they made love, it was soft and real, each moment a choice, not a rule. Clara felt safe, her heart open, no longer tied to someone else's story. Talus became a memory. His shop is dark, his loom still. People said he sat alone, his eyes empty, his stories forgotten. Clara felt a pang of pity, but she knew she'd made the right choice. Her marriage taught her that love should make you free, not trap you. She'd given up her dreams for Talus's words, but now she was weaving her own life, full of color and hope. Clara's days were full. She'd wake early, sipping tea while the sun rose, then paint until her hands were smudged with color. At the market, she'd talk with customers, their kind words building her confidence. She saved money, dreaming of traveling to the cities she painted. With Elias, she planned a trip, their excitement shared, and their dreams equal. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Every step was her own. Looking back, Clara saw her marriage as a fairy tale gone wrong, like Rumpelstiltskin, where a promise costs too much. Talus's stories had been magic, but they came with a price. Her freedom, her voice. She'd learned to trust herself, to listen to her heart, even when it was hard. Her new life was her own story, one she wrote with every brushstroke, every thread. The Weaver's Shadow is a story that shows us love can be beautiful, but also dangerous. Clara and Talus teach us that love should lift you up, not hold you down. Their age difference didn't break them. What did was Talus's need to control and Clara's lost dreams. Like Rumpelstiltskin, Talus offered magic, but asked for too much, and Clara paid the price until she found her strength. Think about your own life. Are you in a love that feels free, or one that feels like a trap? Clara learned that real love lets you be yourself, not someone else's idea of you. She found her courage late, but she found it. You can too. Ask yourself, what promises are you keeping that hurt you? Are you giving up dreams to make someone else happy? Write your thoughts in the comments. I will read them all. If this story touched you, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more stories that make you think. Keep weaving your own story, and watch out for promises that sound too good.